righty, we have reached week 4 of the NFL season. The season keeps turning along at this point. We've reached week 4 here and have a really exciting week. We have games that'll be played in Dublin, Ireland for the first time this season. Also, last week seemed to be a little unpredictable. I really love my picks for this week. This is about the most confident I've been in my picks in quite some time. So really excited to break these down. We'll start with the Thursday night football game. We have the Seahawks and the Cardinals, and it seems like the Cardinals towards the end of games have really struggled with their secondary. It also seems like their offense with Kyler Murray has broken down towards the end. So it'll be really interesting to see what they end up doing in this game. But Seattle, the Seahawks have looked really good. Aside from that game against the 49ers and a weaker first half against the Pittsburgh Steelers, they've shown up. They've done a lot of really successful things. Jackson Smith-Njigba looks like a true number one. Sam Darnold has worked really well with that team, and their secondary is really putting it all together at this point, which is really impressive for them. I think they win this game in a close battle, and I have Seattle 28-23 over the Cardinals. I just think they're going to be too much on this day, and when you put together their offensive pass attack with Sam Darnold, Jackson Smith-Njigba, a few of their other receivers that are really coming into their own, I just don't think that the Cardinals defense is going to be able to keep up. I have the Seattle Seahawks 28-23. Then we have our game at 9:30 a.m. We have the Minnesota Vikings versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. And it's weird with the Vikings. They blew out the Bengals. And I think there were two factors going into that. One was that the Bengals just weren't ready with Jake Browning to go out there and beat that defensive unit. And another one is I think the Vikings are better with Carson Wentz, a more veteran quarterback, somebody that can get the ball and push the ball downfield. I think they're just better with Wentz overall. So I think Minnesota could really start rolling at this point. The Steelers have, I'll give them this, they have had really good come from behind victories in 2 of their weeks, their 2 wins. I thought Aaron Rodgers had a really good back shoulder throw against the Patriots to eventually win that game. But I just feel that in this one, Minnesota, with their mixture of defense and with their new air raid attack, Justin Jefferson, the number 1 wide receiver, Kevin O'Connell potentially out scheming a guy like Mike Tomlin in this game, I just think the Minnesota Vikings are going to find a way to win. I have them winning 30-27. I think it's a really close game, but I think towards the end of this game, the Steelers are going to struggle to get more points on the board. And I think with Wentz, this Minnesota team has unlocked a different type of offense. I have the Minnesota Vikings winning 30-27. Moving on to the Sunday slate of games, we have the Commanders and the Falcons. The Falcons, they just did not look particularly good in that game against Carolina. It made no sense. 30-0 after how they had played before. They had not looked that bad in games, and they just got boat raced by the Carolina Panthers, who really aren't known for boat racing anybody in the past half decade. So it was a really shocking performance. And then you look at the Commanders, they looked great with Marcus Mariota against a Raiders team that has at the very least been somewhat competitive. That game was a no contest. So for me, it doesn't really matter what quarterback the Commanders or the Commanders have at this point. If it's Mariota or Jaden Daniels in this game against the Atlanta Falcons, doesn't matter to me. I have the Commanders 20-14. I still think it's a close game, but I feel that the roster for Washington is more veteran. And Michael Penix, we're getting to a point now where we don't really know how good he is with his sample size. Few games he's looked decent, a few games he's looked really bad. So we'll have to determine what he is as this goes. But I have the Commanders 20-14 over the Falcons. Moving on, we have the Saints and the Bills. And the Saints have entered that category as the worst team in the NFL. They got destroyed by Seattle. Looks like they're going to move on from Rattler here very soon, and they're going to make that pivot to Shook at this point. But if you look at the Bills, they're a team that really gets off to big performances in the 1 o'clock window against these poor teams, these teams that are not very good. And I expect them to do the same that they've done in their history with Josh Allen. And I expect them to win big today. I have the Bills 30-7. Feel as if it's just not going to be much of a contest when you start to factor how bad the Saints are on defense and how bad the Saints are on offense. I just feel that the Bills are going to dominate. Give me the Buffalo Bills 30-7 over the Saints. Moving on, we have the Lions and we have the surprise team, the Cleveland Browns. This is a team that somehow pulled off a huge heroic win against the Green Bay Packers, blocking a kick, doing that. And it makes you think with Cleveland, can you imagine if they actually had a solid quarterback? We could be talking about a contender here. If they had a solid quarterback and a true number one receiver, this would be a team you'd be talking about. But instead, they have their offensive struggles. Their defense is still as sound as it's ever been. But with those limitations, it makes it really tough for them to win that many games. But I still think they're on the up and up. But then you look at a team like Detroit, they got just about as impressive as a win as you'll see in the NFL. Monday Night Football primetime game on the road against Lamar Jackson, who doesn't lose to the NFC. They beat them pretty soundly, which is extremely shocking. That doesn't happen from what data will show you, what history will show you. So I'll still take Detroit in this game. I have them 25-22 over Cleveland, but both these teams seem to be on the come up here at this point. Browns just had a really impressive victory, but the Lions, they're looking like one of the best rosters in the NFL once again. After their poor week one performance, they have bounced right back. I have them 25-22 in this one. Next up, you have the Panthers and the Patriots, and this is going to be a battle, in my opinion, and it's really going to come down to who coaches this game better, who puts their team out there with a better chance to win schematically. And if you look at it, the Patriots, they have not particularly looked like they've gelled as well. Drake May has his moments where he looks really good, and he has his moments where he looks not very good. It's part of the process of being a young quarterback. The Panthers, they had their best victory with Bryce Young so far. You could see it at the end of the Arizona game that they were turning it on a bit. So I predict a very close game, but I'm going to take the Patriots by a smidge here. I'm going to take them 17-16 in what should be a battle, should be a really close game through and through. But I just feel at the end of the day here that the Patriots are going to have a little bit more. I think Mike Vrabel is going to get them ready to go, and they're going to win this one 17-16 over the Carolina Panthers. Next up, you have the Chargers and the Giants. The Chargers are coming off a really impressive field goal winning effort that they put in, and Justin Herbert in that game had that touchdown to Keenan Allen towards the end of the game was one of the nicer throws that I've seen a quarterback make in general, escaping the pocket and then throwing on a dime to Keenan Allen in a clutch situation. That was really impressive from him. He's proven to me that he's somewhat of a guy that's in the category to be top 5 quarterback at this point. He has played really well through the stretch of this year. I know it's only been 3 games, but he's played really solid. Then you look at the Giants. This is a team, in my opinion, they were unwatchable on Sunday Night Football. They were completely unwatchable. I would just pivot quarterbacks at this point. I'd start Jackson Dart in this game. I don't know if he's ready or not, but he's a guy that I'd play at this point just because you need another kick to this team. They have nothing going for them right now. Brian Dable is going to be out the door. At least get some excitement going, make something happen. If they can play this game close, it can go a long way. But they just need more. Russell Wilson at this point, he's past his career. So I'm going to take the Chargers 24-16. I think that score's a lot closer than it's going to indicate. Maybe the Giants get a last-second touchdown or a garbage time touchdown, but I have the Chargers pretty soundly in this game, 24-16. Moving on, we have the big game, the Eagles and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, both teams 3-0, and they've gotten it kind of in different ways. If you look at it, the Buccaneers have had to have late-game heroics all three of their wins. Philadelphia has had some close games, but more so they've edged out their games and won them with their run attack. So I predict it's going to be a really close game at this point. Baker has been playing really. I don't know if Mike Evans is going to suit up, and that's definitely going to play a factor for Tampa Bay. Now, they do have a Emeka Egbuka who's been an absolute stud at this point. So they have somebody at wide receiver that can shoulder some of the load there. But if you look at Philadelphia, when they are able to throw the ball to A.J. Brown the way they did last week, but you counter that with the tush push, with Saquon Barkley, with all that, they're an unbeatable team, in my opinion. When they're able to connect with Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown, they're nearly impossible to beat. I'm going to take them in this game 27-24. Think that they find a way to win. Part of me was thinking about Tampa, but if you do look at it, I think with Philadelphia's interior and with them now finally opening up their pass game a little bit more, they should have enough to get past Baker and the Bucs, and that's why I have the Eagles by a field goal, 27-24. Next up, you have the Titans and the Texans, and Houston has looked like a mess so far this year. I really think it's a make-or-break week for C.J. Stroud and company. Now, I will say, their O-line is awful. Their O-line is terrible, and if you're Stroud, it's really tough to be a successful quarterback in the NFL when your O-line sucks. So part of that I'll give to him, but he needs to look better. There's certain throws that have been missed, and they've all played a hand in it. Nico Collins had a really bad fumble last week on one of their drives towards the end of the game that kind of cost it for them. So they're all playing a hand in it. I will say the defense of the Texans looks pretty good. Then you look at Tennessee. They just clearly don't have the pieces at this point. They don't have enough personnel, per se, to compete in these games late. That's why you're seeing a lot of garbage touchdowns from them. And maybe they have it close seasonally early, but just not able to sustain long games because of their depth. That's why I'm going to take Houston to get their first win of the year, 20-10. I feel like they'll have enough to get past Cam Ward and company, and they win 20-10 by 10 points. Moving on, you have the Colts and the Rams, and this is actually a game that is one of the better games of the entire week, surprisingly. Who would have thought that at the beginning of the year? But you have two teams that are looking really good at this point. The Rams had a heartbreaker against the Eagles last week, and the Colts just continue to roll. Daniel Jones is airing it out as if he is some sort of air-rated quarterback. Jonathan Taylor looks back to his 2023 self. They are putting it together at this point. They've looked really good. I think it's going to be real close in this game, but I just feel the Rams are going to make one or two more big plays in this game. And like I said, it's going to be a toss-up for me. This is a go-either-way game for sure, but given the defense of the Rams, given Sean McVay, given the receiver depth, I think the Rams will have just enough to beat this Colts team, and that's why I have the Rams 30-29, a 1-point difference in this game. That's how close it was. I went back and forth on it once or twice, but at this point, concretely, I feel that the Rams are going to have just enough to beat this Colts team 30-29. Next up, you have the Jaguars and the 49ers. And this is a game where I feel like it's going to be kind of a slugfest. You look at this Jacksonville team, their biggest thing is they've been giving away games towards the end. That's been their problem, where they'll have this big lead, but they just won't be able to hold on to it towards the end. And I feel that something like that could happen in this game. I have the Niners with Mac Jones winning 17-14, but I feel like it could be a game where Jacksonville is up 14-10. It's late, and somehow, some way, Christian McCaffrey is able to break a big one, and they win this game late. But I do have the Niners in this one. Mac Jones, Christian McCaffrey, Kyle Shanahan with his schemes. I have them winning 17-14 over Jacksonville. Next up, you have a primetime showdown that's not necessarily in a primetime slate. You have the Ravens and the Chiefs, and really solid game on paper. But the Chiefs they're just not as good this year because they don't have receiver depth. They don't have running back depth. There's a lot of holes on this team at this point for the Chiefs. Now, I do think they're going to get a lot better once they get Rashee Rice back, Xavier Worthy back. Once they get those guys back, they'll be a better team. But for now, when you look at their depth, when you look at Kareem Hunt being a featured back at his age, it's just not going to be enough at this point for them to beat a team like Baltimore with their offense, with what they're able to do, their capabilities. Lamar Jackson has been one of the best performing quarterbacks, if not the best in the NFL so far through this year. He's looked really solid so far. Derrick Henry, if he could just limit those fumbling issues, which it's actually, in my opinion, a good thing that he's had those two crucial fumbles early. You would rather have those fumbles be in week 1 and week 3 to lose these games than be in the first round or the second round of the playoffs. So a lot to learn from it, but I think with Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, they're going to have enough. Give me the Baltimore Ravens 31-24. Chiefs will stay competitive. They just don't have that kick. They don't have enough right now. Give me the Ravens 31-24. Next up, you have the Bears and the Raiders. And the Bears looked a lot better. They had one of their better performances for the first time in a bit in that game against the Cowboys. Caleb Williams had one of the best throws I saw all week pretty much. It was a really good play on the flea flicker. It was a great throw. And then if you look at Vegas, they have a lot of pieces, and their O-line needs a lot of work, and their defense has crumbled in certain spots, but I think they have a good foundation. Brock Bowers is playing through injury. I don't think he's 100%. So give me the Bears 28-21. I think it's a close battle, but I think that the Bears break away towards the end, 28-21. Next up, you have the Packers and the Cowboys. Grudge match right here. You have Micah Parsons playing against his old team. And I think that game against the Cleveland Browns that the Packers lost, I believe that's going to light a fire under them. If you look at it, Dallas's offense without CeeDee Lamb has a lot of limitations. Their defense already had limitations. Now, without Micah Parsons, obviously he's on the Packers. So I feel the Packers are going to definitely win this game. I have it 24-20 in favor of the Packers. I feel that given the offense with the Cowboys when they're trailing, I think they get a few late touchdowns and they make it look like a competitive game. But give me the Packers to win 24-20. Moving on, you have two Monday Night Football games, the first being the Jets and the Dolphins. This is a battle of two teams that have looked very underwhelming so far. So it's honestly a toss-up, but I feel that Miami has more personnel at this point than that Jets team, especially if Justin Fields isn't going to play. So go ahead and give me the Dolphins by a field goal, 16-13. Just feel at this point that they'll be able to make a few more plays. Mike McDaniel's coaching for his job at this point. You got to think this is a must-win for him, or he's going to be out the door. So I believe Miami wins 16-13. Then you have the Bengals and the Broncos. And if last week is any indication of how this Bengals team is going to look at this point, that Denver defense could really carve up that Bengals offense with Jake Browning. It could be a bloodbath if the Bengals don't play it a little safer, maybe put some more runs in, put some more screen passes in. Really got to do a good job of opening the game up for Jake Browning. If they don't do that, this defense for Denver, they're going to pounce on them. And it's not even going to matter about what Bo Nix and the offense does. It might just matter about what the defense does to that Bengals offense. So I'm going to take the Broncos by a considerable amount, 31-20. I just think with how good the Denver defense is, with how amped up they're going to be after that loss to the Chargers in a game that they probably should have won, I feel they're going to come in with some swagger and come in with that motivation to win and win this one 31-20. That's going to do it for week 4. Like I said, love my picks, and I'll be back for week 5 next week.